Are we already, oh, we're already recording. Oh, geez. Pause that. Oh, well. All right, dude. I'm excited to have you guys on. I got Alex Millward from Peak Refuel on today, and I'm stoked to have him on because they really kind of like changed the game when it comes to dehydrated meals, or I guess freeze dried meals, what you guys would make. And they kind of
Yes,
really
sir.
stepped everyone else's game up to where they actually put some dang calories and protein into their meals. So, Alex, dude, how you doing?
Great. Thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah, for sure. You guys are kind of like I don't want to say came out of nowhere because you've been around a long time, but you guys have really like in the hunting space. I feel like you guys really just set the bar so high and so good and really met hunters' needs. And I think it's kind of similar to Tricer, right? Because there's a lot of tripod companies that aren't hunting tripods. So I met their needs. And with you guys all being hunters, your founders, pretty much all of you guys who work there being hunters, coming out of right below Salt Lake, you guys, you understand how many calories are burned in a day, and you started making meals that actually like fill us up.
hmm Yeah, and it's one thing that Peak kind of did early on because Peak's been around for about 6 years in that ballpark. I've been involved directly or employed by the company for about four of those six, but met the founders early on, probably about 3 to 6 months before Peak launched. I was working at another hunting company that's just down the road from here. And it's been super cool to see from back then in 2018 to where Peak is now and kind of the jumps that have been made. And yeah, I think kind of early on, Peak's motto you could say was the new standard. It's kind of the new
Mhm.
standard in freeze dried meals, where yeah, it's almost double the protein, double the calories, kind of that home cooked taste, and that's kind of what we've been running with since.
And way more flavors than rice and chicken.
Yeah, we've tried to keep it pretty broad of what we can offer.
Dude, we should do a collab like a Triceratops meal or something. We'll get some like Triceratops.
It'd probably be a good hit. It'd be a
It'd be
hit.
a hit. We need to do something like that. Some sort of Triceratops meat thing. I don't know, it's like kangaroo or something. I don't know. Something controversial in there. Um,
Oh yeah,
but
stir the pot.
oh yeah, I didn't know. So I guess I've been using you guys. I think I used you guys on a Sierra's backpack hunt in like 2019.
hmm
It was great, and I feel like honestly, like since then, the meals have gotten a lot better. Like your meals have just gotten like now it's like you guys are what I use. Like I use Peak Refuel for pretty much every meal. Um, and it's just so there's such a variety there, and they're all good. Uh, I still bring sriracha on every hunt. Like sriracha is my thing, so I put sriracha in pretty much every meal. But
Oh yeah,
they're great meals, man. And yeah, I'm stoked you guys are doing it because it makes our lives as backpack hunters a lot easier.
and that's kind of where our founders had the idea of Peak. Between the three or four of them, they probably had 10 to 15 years of freeze dry experience, but more kind of on the emergency preparedness side of things, right?
Really.
And yeah, and so them being hunters, they sat there and kind of scratched their heads and were like, "Wait a minute, we source premium ingredients already. We have the freeze dryers, we have the technology. Let's make something that tastes like we cooked it at home versus an emergency meal that if you're absolutely starving or if you're hungry
Mhm.
enough, you can eat it, but then kind of have a domino effect of issues that come after that."
Yeah, and one thing I appreciate too is like some of these other companies would be like, "Oh, 2 servings," and it's like it's not 2 serving, it's 1 serving. Like your meals are made to freaking scarf down when you get back to camp. Like there is
Oh
nothing
yeah.
better than like I don't know. Let's use like some of my elk hunts last year, where you're just dropping, 2 or 3,000 feet, coming back out of these canyons. You're leaving at 4 a.m., getting back to we were getting back to the tent at like 10 p.m. at night. And dude, there is nothing better than like 1,000 calories of buffalo, whatever, or Chad Mendez stuff. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, that just, dude, it just hits the spot.
Uh-huh. And it kind of blew my mind. I didn't really start keeping track until about 2 years ago. I started wearing a Garmin watch and I was keeping track of how many calories I was actually burning a day. It's pretty wild how easy it is to burn 4,000, 5,000 calories. And if you're not replenishing or getting close to that amount of calories on your intake, and same deal, high protein, high carb, uh, there's a reason why a lot of times prior to peak, I'd be day 3, day 4 of a hunt and just feeling absolutely wiped. And looking back, it's like, yeah, I was eating maybe 2,000 calories a day, burning 4,000, 5,000. You just burn all the tank out of the gas, and it's pretty hard to keep up after that.
Yeah, I don't think people realize like how important like the food part of it is. And you're never going to like I was joking around the gym this morning with one of my trainers. I'm like, yeah, I'm probably gonna lose 15 pounds. Like I'm a light guy as it is. Like when I get into the 180s, like I'm stoked. I try and bulk
Yeah,
up to that, and I'll probably drop down to like 160 by the end of the season. Just because I burn, you can not. It's not possible to supplement that much food when you're out there. It's just you're gonna burn way more than you're taking in. You're gonna lose weight out there. Um, but like good food is so important because I've done stuff like when I first started like doing a lot of backpack hunts. Like I've always backpacked, but like I started doing backpack. I was really into like Jason Harrison had a lot of stuff out, and he's like, "Oh yeah, just do Snickers bars, just do Reese's," and like man, like it made it work for Jason, but like for me, uh, I like to be a lot cleaner when I'm out there because it just
yeah,
tears me up to eating like crap. Like, I definitely have like some. I definitely always have like Sour Patch Kids or gummy bears in my pack. Like, I love having something in the middle of the day or peach rings, something to throw in my mouth, suck on while I'm hiking. But like having like good food is so crucial, especially for someone like me this year. Like, I'm probably going to be in the field over 100 days, right? And not all those hunts are going to be me like having a backpack. Like some of those are going to be like Mexico where I'm having burritos, but a lot of them are going to be backpacking and me having to eat peak. And it helps, man. Having good food helps a ton.
for sure. And it was kind of a eye opener to me of the after my first year of working here. I think I hunted close to 50 or 60 days in that ballpark. And at the end of that big stretch, I was still excited to eat a chicken Alfredo on day 60 as I was on day one, right? The taste, the ingredients, the high quality that we use, it kind of shows of where I mean, our typical taste test, you could say, of any time we come out with a new meal, we'll actually sit here in this office um, and make sure that we could eat it at lunchtime and it still tastes good. Versus kind of like we were chatting earlier, I mean, you can eat anything when you're hungry, and so our true taste test is, hey, if you can sit here at 12 on a Tuesday and eat the meal and it tastes good coming out of the pouch, then that's kind of what we want our standard to be before we kick it out to the public. So
Yeah, for sure. We're gonna get into the origins, but one more thing on the meals. Why do they make you fart so much? Not just your all freeze dried. What is the deal with that? Is that what is it just the protein or is it just like the do they like gas up inside of you? Like what causes you to get these backpack meal farts?
so it's
Is there a
funny you say
scientific
that.
data behind this or what?
Yeah, so one of my buddies, he's a nutritionist. His name's Kyle Camp out of Idaho. I think it's V to P Nutrition.
Mhm.
He actually posted something this morning that hits on that, and it's kind of a combo of different things. Of, I mean, one, our bodies are burning through everything we eat so dang
Mhm.
fast compared to a regular day, to where, I mean, you have, say your stomach's empty, you're hiking hard. I mean, it's ready to just churn up everything that you eat. Sometimes if you have super high protein and high fat when you are that hungry, and it's granted it's not everybody. I'd say a handful of people do have issues, handful of people don't. Um, but yeah, when you're that hungry, your body's that ready to burn through calories, and you throw a bunch of high protein, high fat in there. Every once in a while, some people will get some GI tract activity, you could say.
Yeah, dude, you don't want to hide behind me like at all when we're eating refills or anything, any kind of freeze drieds. It gets me. Like it's pretty funny. Like you don't realize like how bad you smell. Like not only like the farting, but like day 6 to 8 on a backpack hunt. Like dude, you're just used to your body's smell, but like you and your buddy, like you don't realize how bad you smell until you walk into like Burger King afterwards because you want that like I always want a burger. I always want like when I go off mountain, I want to go get like a Coke and a burger somewhere, and you walk
You
in and
do both.
you're like, dude, I smell really bad.
Yeah.
It's part of it though. It's a part of the experience, just get out there and doing it.
Yeah, all the BO and SWAS of the last 5 to 7 days kind of adds up.
Oh, dude, the
But
whole everything smells, dude. I do like the I'll sit in a creek sometimes. Like I bring like the Dr. B's with me, like that stuff, like this anything that has like tea tree in it that kind of like you could put on you that kind of tingles. That stuff's nice in the backcountry. I'll do
oh
that
yeah,
a little bit. Sometimes I'll throw my pants like into a creek and just like put some rocks in there, and let them just like kind of like wash them. I'll wash them, in the creek with some Dr. B's, and then I'll throw them in the creek and the water, run through them for a while, get them cleaned out a little bit. That's one of the nice things about all the new like synthetic type stuff is you can really wash it good and clean it up. But yeah, man, there's no way around the smellingness of a backpack hunt. That's for sure.
yes sir, I agree.
So let's talk origins of Peak Refuel because the main reason I love supporting you guys is you're a hunting company. You're at every hunting event. Like you don't see these other meal companies at these hunting things. Um, so you said they were doing it for years. Did they have a company before? Let's talk about freeze drying and how this all started.
Yeah, so here in Utah, like you said, we're about 30 minutes south of Salt Lake. Uh, our founders, so Seth, Bart, and Travis, they all worked for a freeze dry company called Thrive Freeze Dry for probably 10 to 15 years each. Or yeah, they'd all worked there for about 10 years together, and kind of had this brainchild of like, hey, we have the freeze dryers. Our freeze dryers are probably the size of a school bus. They're huge. And they said, hey, we've got the freeze dryers. We have every contact in the US for ingredients, for meat, noodles, sauces, things like that. And they kind of just sat there and said, "Hey, there's definitely something we can do because of our size already, right? They didn't have to go out and bootstrap a harvest right freeze dryer and make the meals from scratch out of a freeze dryer that was this big." Um, it kind of gave them a little bit of a step up or an advantage, you could say, of instead of having to start from absolute ground zero, there was the freeze dry technology and the freeze dry equipment there. So they put their heads together for about 18 months trying to develop the first six meals in that to hit that quality of high protein, high calorie, but not only that, taste is a big one, right? And so kind of the process of what happens here, and it all happens in this building here in American Fork, and because of that, we get to keep a super close eye on everything. Quality is always super high. Um, we have a team of food scientists. There's three of them that we kind of handpicked out of BYU. They've got a top five food science program in the nation. So they hired them. They took some recipe cards and said, "Hey, turn this recipe right here into a freeze dried meal." So Seth, our founder, his favorite meal that his mom made growing up was a crock pot style chicken and rice, which he took that recipe card, gave it to them, gave it to the food science team, and that's how we got the home style chicken and rice that's in our lineup today. And so, kind of working backwards here, everything is developed by our food science team. We have these kettles that are about 5 feet wide and 5 feet tall that will cook everything in, and it's pretty cool because had they been true businessmen and not worried so much about the taste but more profitability, they would have said, "Hey, it's way faster and way cheaper to freeze dry all the ingredients by themselves, drop it in a bag, and say, hey, when you add the hot water, it'll quote mix together, right?" Um, but them knowing better, they said, "No, that's not the way we're going to do it. We're not going to skimp by. We're going to make this as physically close to a home cooked meal as possible." And so We'll cook and marinate all the ingredients in that giant pot, just like you would at home. And then it goes into our freeze dryers, which kind of the difference between dehydrated and freeze dried is dehydration, you blast something with heat until all the water evaporates. Freeze dried, you put, say it's uh, a chicken dices. You'll cook the chicken, freeze it completely, put it in the freeze dryer, and through pressure, the ice in the chicken turns straight to gas. And so a couple things happen there. Dehydration, you lose nutritional value, you lose taste, and you lose texture. Whereas freeze dry, it's almost like a 99% um, rate of the nutritional value from when it's cooked normally to when it is freeze dried. So your taste, your texture, and the amount of water that it actually takes to reconstitute the meal is way lower. Just where water can reconstitute a freeze dried piece of meat with, yeah, a lot easier and with less water than something that's dehydrated.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was curious about that. So I wasn't sure. So you're actually cooking it, not like buying. When you say you're sourcing food, you're sourcing like raw materials, bringing it in and cooking it. You're not buying like freeze dried noodles from this guy, freeze dried rice from this guy. You're bringing it in and doing it all in house.
So I'd say the only thing that we probably do that with is rice and noodles, because if you were to cook rice and then
Okay,
cook
yeah, that makes
noodles,
sense.
and then freeze dry them, it'd just be like a giant clump of
Yeah,
stuff. And so that's where you can just drop those ingredients in the bag. But yeah, everything else apart from the rice and noodles, and say like the biscuits and gravy, those are just dropped in. Everything else is cooked together.
that makes sense. So how many of those pots? I mean, you guys are like, especially during COVID. I mean, you guys were out of stock everywhere. How many pots do
Yeah,
you have? You got to be making a ton of meals. How many employees
yeah.
do you guys
If
have for doing this? And
if I remember right, the kettles that we have here, we have about three of them. Um, so I came in and was employed by Peak towards the end of 2020, so the end of COVID. And at that time, we only had, I think, four freeze dryers here that were, yeah, churning 24/7. Like, I remember sometimes with our orders, as fast as we could get that stuff freeze dried, thrown in a pouch, and passed off by our QA department, we were loading boxes of it, driving it up to Shields, kicking orders as out the door as fast as we could. Since then, we have built eight more freeze dryers in this building, and we had to expand. We had to build another building just down the road so that we could fulfill out of there and have the space for our fulfillment and our packaging. And so, yeah, everything's cooked here. We put it on a truck, ship it a mile and a half down the road, and then it's packaged and shipped, um, all here in American Fork.
it's all done in house. That's pretty cool. So you must have like how many employees doing this stuff?
On the freeze dry and on the packaging and shipping side of things combined, there's probably got to be upwards of 400 in that
No
ballpark.
way.
Yeah, I know our with our freeze dry and with our packaging specifically, we have three shifts that are running 24/7. Um, and they make it to where they overlap, so there's not a hard stop, and then the next crew's got to come in and start from scratch and pick it back up. They kind of overlap. I think it's 3 10-hour shifts that overlap, and yeah, we're this place is buzzing 24/7. So it
Man,
was,
that's unreal. I didn't realize that. That's crazy. Well, how congrats to those two, man, or three for starting a company 6 years ago and turning it into that. Wow. Talk about
yeah,
timing too.
it's
Talk about timing with COVID. I guess that's they were
yeah,
on.
it was the perfect storm. It's kind of wild to hear. I mean, whenever we go on road trips, they'll talk about the quote early days. I mean, I still feel like we're in the early days sometimes of peak, but even before my time, like the first 6 months or the first year of Peak Refuel, how hard it was to get people to even try the meals, right? Because we've all had the freeze dry experience. Even when they came to me, so I worked at King's Camo. It's one exit down from the Peak building. They walked into our building, said, "Hey guys, we're hunters, you're hunters. We're launching this company in 2, 3 months. We want you to try our food and give us your feedback." And I got back from a backpack hunt where I bought the Walmart special. There were probably 2 or 3 different brands,
You
freeze
were just
dried food
smashing
brands.
smashing chili mac the whole time. Just Mountain House chili the
Exactly.
whole trip.
And yeah, I had such a bad stomach issue with that stuff that when they dropped off the Peak, I was like, you know what, I'm good. I've had freeze dried. It's not that great. And luckily, they said, "Hey, no, this kind of gave me the sales pitch. This is different. It's real food, 100% real meat. It's not. It doesn't have any fillers or powders or anything like that." I was broke college kid, so free food's the best food. I cracked open a chicken Alfredo, heated it up in the back during my shift, and was like, "Oh man, yeah, this is different. This is better." And I snuck the whole box. I took it home and used it that season, kind of as Peak was launching. And every time they would come back into our office, I'd beg them and plead them and say, "Hey, man, I don't care if it's scrubbing the floors. I don't care if it's wash or scrubbing toilets, doing fulfillment, whatever. You guys have something pretty special going on. I'd love to be a part of it." And I was able to convince them to hire me about a year and a half, 2 years later, and it's even from 4 years ago till now. It's crazy how much we've grown and how many people we've been able to help improve their outdoor experience and it still blows my mind how many people haven't heard of Peak Refuel or haven't tried it yet.
One thing I really appreciate about you guys, and we're doing it on a smaller scale, but we try to as well, is you're in like every archery shop. Like every little mom and pop art, like my mom and pop archery shop here. I mean, it's like 500 square feet, but there's a Peak Refuel, point of sale right there. A little cardboard thing with your guys' stuff on it, and that's how I found out about you guys. It's like, I mean, that was early days. Like I said, it was 2019, so like within the first year, I was getting Peak out of archery shop. You guys did really good at like getting it focused on hunters. And now I'm sure you're
Yeah,
an REI. I'm sure you're getting all kinds of granola eaters eating it as well. But you guys did really good at like taking care of hunters, which I appreciate.
for sure. And kind of with our background, all of us here, we we felt super comfortable in the space and knew how to pitch the food to hunters because I mean, same as us. Everybody has had an experience on the mountain with different food that either kind of turned them off or they they look at the numbers on the pouch and are like, "Man, this whole entire bag of food is only 500 calories, and like
Hmm.
I've got to buy 4 or 5 of those type deal." And so and not only from the quality of food perspective, Peak tried to set the new standard, but we also on the business side of things tried to make it as easy as physically possible to resell Peak. I mean, if you had your business license and your reseller's license and wanted to sell Peak, we're flexible and try to make it work because almost anyone and everyone, like a whitetail hunter back east, you could sit there with a hot thermos of water and pour while you're in the tree stand or you're in a ground blind, pour a hot thermos into your biscuits and gravy, have that at noon. I mean, kind of like you and I, the Western hunter, you're grabbing 10, 15 meals going out at a time, or even a lot of people use it for emergency storage where it does have a half decent shelf life being freeze dried. But yeah, we focus and push as hard as we can on the hunting side of things because that's what we know, that's what we're good at, and that's what we kind of really resonate with other people and other hunters, right?
Yeah, and you're doing really good at like collaborations too. Like I was talking about doing a Tricer one earlier, which I have some ideas for that already. I'll give them to you in a minute. You brought on like Chad Mendez, right? It was early days, right? The Buffalo with bison stuff. And then you brought on like I just saw you Ranella did one. Like what was Ranella's new meals he just did?
We did a buffalo goulash and a
Buffalo.
buffalo barbecue mac and cheese.
Gotcha. Um, which I probably have some of those. I maybe we'll see. I just got some meals from you guys. Maybe I have some of those. I'd like to try those out. Um, but you're pretty good focus on hunters, and like I'm sure. Do you guys do some like vegan stuff too?
Yeah, just where the quality of our meals has been recognized by a lot of different crowds, like
Yeah.
the hiking crowd. Um, we do have three options that are vegan, like our mountain berry granola, our three bean chili, and our butternut dalbat. Which the butternut dalbat is a sleeper in my opinion. The taste, I love it, just where it's less than, I think our average protein content per pouch is about 40 grams. The Dalbat is 26, 25 in that ballpark. So people are like, oh, it's got less protein or it's vegan, it's not going to taste as good. I'd say flavor wise, it probably falls into my top five favorites.
Yeah, and the reason why I brought that up is like I understand that REI is probably one of your biggest retailers. I mean, those guys are they're the behemoth for this stuff. But when you go in there, there's so many of these granola eating freaking backpack companies that are like vegan, vegan, everything's vegan. And like I love that Peak's like, hey, we're gonna take Ranella and make a meal with him, bison, because he's a hunter. Like there's no one really doing that, like making like they're not hunting focused, but it's like I appreciate companies that are willing to say we're a hunting company. I tell people all the time, like, oh, I run this tripod. I'm like, cool, send them a grip and grin. I guarantee you they're not going to repost your picture because they don't want to associate with hunting, right? People are afraid to do it. And Peak is not afraid to associate with hunting. And I think that's been like I think Tricer is a great example of that, and so are you guys. Like it's if you're willing to like stand up for what you believe in, like it will grow your business. And you guys have been really good at like, hey, we're a you're a freeze dried meal company, right? Obviously, right? You're selling to a ton of backpackers, but being willing to step out and say you're hunting billies for hunters has been great for you guys, and I want to support that.
For sure, we appreciate it, and I think the consumers are smart, man. Like you can read between the lines, you can see through the fluff, but I feel that's been a huge part of the momentum that we've had is say when we go to the Hunt Expo in Salt Lake, right?
Mm.
People come up to us and are like, "Man, we love supporting you because you guys are hunters and things like that." And it's made quite a big difference for sure.
That really is the barometer for me. Like send your man whoever your whatever brand you're using, send them like let's say you're running North Face. Send North Face a grip and grin of you with a white tail or you with an elk. See what they do with it. They wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. Send Peak a grip and grin, you
Exactly.
get a like or a comment or maybe a share. You know what I mean? Like that's I want to support companies that are in the hunting space and you guys are in it doing it. Um When we talk about the origins, talking about making this stuff, you guys were fulfilling out of there too. That's crazy. I mean, that's an unreal. You guys have built a behemoth.
Yeah, there. Right when I started, we did use like a third party fulfillment company just
Mhm.
across the road, but we kind of noticed like nobody treats our baby like we treat our baby, if that makes sense. Nobody puts the TLC that we do because it's our brand. We have one one thing that we fulfill, and it's Peak Refuel meals. Whereas, say this other distribution company might have 40 different brands,
Mhm.
and they're kind of scattered between XYZ. And so, yeah, it's awesome. Our warehouse, they do incredible. We'll even run down there a lot of the times during the busy season, and we're in there packaging and shipping orders as fast as we can and whatnot. But it's been quite the process because it our building here, we used to do everything. We used to freeze dry, package, and ship out of this little building. I mean, it's not that little, but just looking back, it was crazy that we were doing that all in one little facility. And then yeah, as COVID hit, things kind of were a diving or a springboard for us. And then as COVID was tapering off, Ukraine hit. That was another big springboard of just like getting our product into people's hands. And then once they started trying it and using it more, they were like, "Oh wow, yeah, this is better than what I'm used to eating."
So you said busy season. I'm curious. Like for me, like I understand. Like if I were to call like Nate All In or Canvas Cut or whatever, like our busy season is going to be really like July is what really kicks off for us, like July through November, right? For the hunting industry. But I feel like for you guys, like you're so diverse in the backpacking space. Like, do you guys have like is hunting season your busiest season, or is your busiest season like the springtime with the backpackers? I mean, you're so
I
well versed.
Yeah, I'd probably say it's a mix of both. Like from November to February, it's kind of quiet because people aren't getting
One,
outside much when it's
yep,
in the dead of winter. You've got some crazies that are doing it, but yeah, like March, April, May, we see a pretty good pickup because we're in a lot of resupply shacks in, say, on the Pacific Crest Trail, the one that goes from Mexico to Canada, and same deal with the Appalachian Trail, the Colorado Trail, a couple other popular through hikes. We have a really good presence in those resupply spots and those independent retailers, and so we see a good bump March, April, May. But yeah, I'd say the bulk of our busy season is June, July, August, September, those 4 months, and then it
really.
kind of tapers off um, after like October.
Gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, so you are. I mean, that's really neat to hear because that means you really are hunting focused. Like you're getting hunters out there using your stuff. That's really cool.
Yeah, I mean Q3, July, August, September. There's no doubt that it is the busiest time of the year for sure.
So for me, like let me tell you, like my like ideal when I'm backpacking. I don't like doing warm breakfasts when I'm backpacking. I love granolas and like cold breakfast because what I like to do is get out of my tent and start hiking. Meals, I mean,
Yep.
no matter how you cut it, like meals take time. Like it's a pretty much a 30-minute ordeal every time you eat a meal, a hot meal. By the time you warm the water, put the water in there, let it warm up, then eat it. So I typically like to throw. I for every day I have like a granola and then I have like a dinner. And so what I'll do is I'll get up and I'll pack into my place. I typically like to eat my spot no later than a half hour before sunrise, but typically an hour before. And then I'll just get there and I'll just like siphon some water out and spit it in that bag. And that's my meal. I love those
Oh
things.
yeah. I'm right there with you, and kind of what I do as well. I'm not lactose intolerant by any means, but trying to drink a glass of milk and then hike up a hill
Mhm.
isn't ideal. Our strawberry granola, it's probably the best tasting granola we have. It's got strawberries, real milk powder granola. All kind of lean towards the mountain berry granola where it has rice milk. It's a little easier on the stomach, and sometimes either I hit the snooze button one too many times, or kind of same deal. It's like, hey, chasing elk in September. I'm in the same ballpark as you. I'd like to be there an hour to 30 minutes before light, hear where they're piping off, hear where they're headed, and try to cut them off. I'll just dump that water in the granola, let it sit. I mean, sometimes it's an hour, hour and a half before I get to it, but it's sometimes it's almost like an oatmeal at that point, or still will have a little bit of crunch. But yeah, I love having a granola for breakfast. Depending on what time of the year, where I'm at, sometimes I'll eat a peak meal for lunch. A lot of other times I'll do Uncrustables or Pro Bar meals, just where
Dude,
they're.
ramen.
Oh yeah, ramen's a solid hit too.
You guys should make a ramen. Like, dude, that would
We're
be
we're always we're always doing some R&D of seeing what's next on the docket.
dude, like I don't know anybody that ramen is so popular right now, like everywhere. Like everyone is making ramen. Dude,
Yeah.
like a ramen and a birria. If you did like a birria and it came with like a dehydrated tortillas in there, like dude, think about that. Dude, I
It
should be.
could
You guys
be could
could
be
be
the
some.
next $1 million idea.
Dude, you guys should do birria taco, like, because you don't do anything with tortillas, right? Like, you know how the
Not currently.
dude, if you got a couple tortillas in there, just vacuum seal those suckers, put some birria in there. Oh, dude, that would be phenomenal. Or like even like machaca, dude. Like do some machaca, put that on tortilla. But then the ramen too, same thing, man. Like just do some ramen and have like whatever you put the veggies in there and the chicken and like the real thick broth, you know. Oh, dude,
Little bit of everything.
if you did the, I mean, I
Comfort
know
food.
ramen, dude, comfort, dude, ramen in the middle of the day. It's so like for me, I always have ramen in my pack, especially my late season hunts. It's just good in the middle of the day to eat some ramen, like some spicy ramen.
Something
Or
hot.
take some
Yeah.
notes right now, dude. Something kind of taco things. I always bring tortillas with me, honestly, for your stuff. So if I do breakfast, I'm putting it in there. And then
Yep.
so tortillas in there with that, dude. It's a hit. You're not even keep it in stock. Just there. But if it takes
Flying
off,
off the shelf, left
if
and
it
right.
take, if it takes off, you gotta let me do my two ideas in the end of the show. I'm gonna tell you about my Tricer meals for you guys. Um,
Well, we'll make sure there's a little credit for Drew over at Tricer.
oh, dude, if you had something with tortillas in it, it would be awesome. Like I know because you know the like I've done like when I first started doing this stuff, I would bring out like the MREs from like the the brown MREs,
Oh yeah.
and they have
Yep.
tortillas in them. Like you could do. There's a way to get those tortillas, I'm sure, and get them in those meals. And they might not have a shelf
You
life of
probably you couldn't freeze dry them. That
no,
probably I mean
you wouldn't
you could
freeze dry
freeze
them. You
dry
would just
anything actually, but um, yeah, it'd be very interesting to see what our food science team could come up with.
oh, dude, or even like birria ramen. They're selling that everywhere now too.
Right.
Freaking popular. But no, you don't have to freeze dry those tortillas. They just come soft. And just do it right there, dude. Food science team, hit me up. I got all kinds of ideas. It's just you get kind of tired of the same meals, but you guys have a great variety. All right, so yeah, I like the difference between like backpack hunting and backpacking is like you see all these like jet boil things. It's these guys they're up in the morning and they're making their meal, their jet boil, they're drinking their coffee. That's not us. Like we're like we I don't care what backpack guy calls me backpacker. We work harder than you. Our packs are heavier. We're ultra light, but our packs still weigh 50 pounds. And we don't have time to sit around camp and eat. And we don't have time to get back to camp and make a fire. Like I'd never make a fire when I'm out there unless it's during the day because you get back to camp and you're exhausted. You're just making a meal. Um, so we don't have time to do that. So, we're eating early in the morning. I do bring typical on a hunt, like say I have an 8-day hunt, I might bring two or three of the warm breakfasts just because it kind of breaks it up, right? Like
Mhm.
I bring tortillas with me or some pita bread and I'll do that and I'll put it on there, make a burrito. It just feels good to get get those cheese slices from Costco, cut those up, throw them in there. You
Oh
got to
yeah.
get, by the time you get to like day 5, like you're really craving some stuff. Middle of the day, I do some of the same stuff. I don't do the crustables too much, but I do a lot of. Like to bring fresh stuff as well. So I'll bring like fresh salami, like a couple
Oh
of
yeah.
those logs. I bring like a lot of those cheeses, like the round cheeses. What are those things? Like the ones that are in the red wax paper. Those things.
Yeah, I can't off the top of my head. Can't remember what they are. I eat those all the time.
Yeah, the big baby bells. And then the little orange Tillamook things from Costco. Or what I'll do is I'll even just make like I'll get sliced salami and I'll make bags with that and put the cheese in there. And the cheese does get a little bit sweaty, but who cares? It's freaking good, dude. Like it depends on where I'm at. I
Exactly.
do like to do some dehydrated fruits and stuff, which you guys don't do any like straight fruits, huh? Like just like peaches or that kind of stuff.
Not currently. Yep.
I do like having some of that stuff in my pack as well. Um, and then dinner time, I always have a meal, right? A meal of some sort. I try and break them up. I like ideally I'll have 8 different ones, but a lot of times it's just the same four reversed or something. You know what I mean? You get it. You find out what you like.
Yep.
Um, is that similar? It's kind of like that's a hunting meal right there, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. I kind of like we were saying. I'll do the granola, something midday to break it up, and then I have my five regulars. I mean, there's not a meal we make that I don't like, or a meal that doesn't taste good. But same. I've got my chicken coconut curry. It's my favorite. The bison goulash. The pesto. I mean, the cool thing with some of our meals too, like that pesto, only takes 5 ounces of water to rehydrate. Some of the stuff I hunt here in Utah and Idaho, I mean, you're 2, 3 miles from the nearest water source, and so if you can stretch out your water supply and make
Yeah.
4 or 5 meals with the same amount of water it takes to make 2 meals, that can help quite a bit. Um, but yeah, kind of the 5 or 6 of my favorites, and then kind of just supplement with things in between.
Yeah, that's a good point that people don't realize here. That's why I like another reason why I really like the granola is a lot less water. 4 to 6 ounces of water for a granola versus somewhere from 12 to 16 ounces for a meal. So use a lot less
Right.
water in that way. 'Cause I find that I'm always, like, especially being in the Southwest where I am, like there's no water. So some sometimes we're carrying in 3 gallons with us just to get to our spot. Oh, we're stashing water. We do a lot of that out here. We'll stash water, hide it in trees, under bushes and stuff. I don't know if it's legal, but we do it. We don't have water sources. You know what I mean? Like drinking
Yeah.
out of a cattle pond's not fun. I've done it, but it's
not not ideal.
not ideal, dude. Not ideal at all. Drinking out of a wallow, not fun. But yeah. So the water thing's big. One thing I think is important for people to realize too with backpack meals is they're not cheap. And if you have to go pick up 20 meals for a hunt, it's gonna hurt. So what I do throughout my year is I always buy meals. Whether it be, are you guys on Amazon?
Yeah, and so we run our Amazon in house. We run our website in house as well. But yeah, it's super smart. I mean, if there's like a pack of meals that you like, or a variety,
Mhm.
it's always best to pick up, yeah, onesies, twosies, even 3 or 4 at a time over the course of a couple months.
Yeah, so just what I would do is like go on Amazon and I'll buy, once a month, buy a couple meals, 2 or 3 meals. And next thing you know, you have like boxes full. Or actually, come to my office, my kitchen in my office is all just freeze dried meals, all peak. Um,
Yeah,
but I buy them throughout the year. So when I get to my hunts, I don't have to go and buy all the stuff. Plus, I'm outfitting like my partner, my kids. I'm just constantly buying. So not just like this big hit of you know 2 grand worth of meals for season, right? Just kind of buying throughout the year, just stock.
yeah.
And then the main reason I do that too, though, is you get to hunting season, and then like you're basically stuck eating. I know you said like whatever the vegan one, like maybe you can only get the vegan one because everything's selling out. You know what I mean? Like vegan one's great.
The
You need
last
8 days. You know what I mean? You might want some other variety.
Yeah, the last time I went to Alaska, we rolled into the Sportsman's Warehouse in Fairbanks,
Mhm.
and the only peak meal that was available was they had beef stroganoff. And don't get me wrong, our beef
I love beef
stroganoff's good.
stroganoff. That's
It's
one of my
real.
all-time favorites. Sriracha.
It's really, yeah, it's really good. But if you were planning on going up there, rolling in 5 days before the hunt, and then buying your food, you've kind of been SOL if you're a professional procrastinator like some of us are. Um, but yeah, you'll buying it early and buying it through the year gives you variety, gives you stock, and then I mean, during our busy time of the year, sometimes our shipping windows, our lead times go up as well. I mean, we can expedite stuff if you want to pay out the wazoo for overnight shipping, but it's always best to buy ahead, buy a good variety. The biggest thing I tell people too is try them at home, right? If you haven't had Peak before, or if you haven't had some of our flavors, buy them, heat them up at home, eat them with the wife and kids, see what you like, what tastes good, and then you can kind of go from there. So you're not having these science experiments in the backcountry.
Yeah, for sure. And then another tip, I guess it would be a pro tip for freeze dried meals. Time helps. Even though it says 10 minutes, dude, if you leave it under 15, 20 minutes, it's going to be better. The longer you cook it, the better they are.
And I second that with a lot of times early on, I was making the mistake of I'd boil the water, and I'd be so hungry that I wouldn't wait until the water was like a rolling boil.
Oh yeah,
It'd just be
rolling.
like a couple little bubbles would pop up. I'm
Mhm,
like, oh,
mhm,
that's boiling, dump it in. I would never mix the water in the bags either. And so, like, the first couple times I'd eat it and be like, oh, that was really good. That piece of chicken was a little crunchy. That
you
noodle
gotta
was a
mix
little
it and shake
crunchy.
it.
Yeah, so we kind of on the back of the pouch, we put 4 or 5 steps on there. I I never read them just because it's like, hey, I look for how much water is in there and
Mhm,
dump it in. But yeah, if you look on the back, we say, hey, once you add the water, shake it, stir it really good, wait a couple minutes, kind of knead the pouch, stir it again. That really helps distribute the water. Um, and same thing if you're hunting at high elevation. Say you live here, we live at 3,500 feet. I hunt at about 11,000, 12,000 feet. Water boils at a lower temperature at high altitude just because of pressure versus down here. And so, yeah, sometimes the water doesn't get as hot. And so, like you were saying, leaving it in there for another minute or two never it's never going to hurt you.
Yeah, what I try and do too is I'll dump it in, I'll shake it, but I'll also take like my long spork and I'll get in the corners. So like what happens is like
Yeah,
the powder will stay in the corners of these meals. And like if you don't get in there and like really stir it up, and I'll actually stir it again at like 5 to 7 minutes and then let it go, let it sit and do that thing. But yeah, that's like my trick for sure is like the longer the better. Like I'll give it 15 minutes all the time and it just tastes better because it's just things won't dehydrate, well, and you stir it up a bunch of times, then it's good, dude. Oh man, there's nothing
ready to
better.
rock and
There's
roll.
nothing better than a peak at like 9 o'clock at night, laying in your sleeping bag right there and just scarfing that thing. Like you would like think like, oh, 1,000 calories is gonna be hard to eat, dude. After a day of backpacking or hunting, oh, dude, you just smash one of those things. They're delicious. Yeah,
Oh yeah, and
I want
then
I want a second one. I'm always like, "Oh, you're not done with yours? Let me give that to my kids." Like, sometimes.
and and that's where last year we came out with our cobbler, more of like a dessert option.
Yeah, I got some
I
of those.
found after a long day of hiking or after like a pack out, a peak, like say a sweet pork and rice, and then
Mhm.
a peach cobbler to top it off. Whew, hits
Dude,
the spot.
you could share those ones too. The cobbler, you could share that, split that up with the people in your tent with you and stuff. All right,
Exactly.
we're gonna hunting story. I got some ideas I'm gonna throw at you at the end of this podcast for my meals, for my Tricer meals. But top five, top five dinners. Let's not worry about breakfast.
My top five. So I'll do our top five sellers, and then my top five favorites. So our top five sellers are going to be the chicken Alfredo,
Hmm.
the beef stroganoff, the biscuits and gravy. Depending on how you look at it, I eat that one more for dinner. We get a lot of people that eat it for
Really?
dinner. Yeah, that's in the top
Hmm.
five. Our beef pasta marinara, and probably rounding out at number five, probably say like the beef stroganoff. A
You
lot
already,
of
you
that
already
is
gave, you already
because
gave us stroganoff. I thought
stro- oh yeah, number two is probably the chicken pesto at number
chicken.
five
Really?
when it comes to top sellers. So my top five favorite, yeah, the number one is the coconut curry. Um, the number two is our bison goulash. My third favorite is the chicken pesto. And we kind of touch on that just where it takes so little water. The sweet pork and rice. And then it's probably like a three-way tie for fifth place. I really like our marinara. If you like spaghetti or lasagna, that one hits the spot. The the venison country casserole that Mendez makes, that one's one of my favorites. Um, and then like the probably the next one, like if I had to really put my finger on one, would be the Alfredo in my top fives. So I know that was like a top eight, but it's hard to pick just five
You
because
get
it's like,
so
dude,
many
they're
good meals, and like coming from like just eating Mountain House, where it was like literally chicken and rice, biscuits and gravy, or the dumplings, chicken and dumplings. It was the same one, stroganoff. Like You guys have so many good meals. Like that sweet chicken and rice or whatever you're talking about. That one has like has pineapple in it, right? Like it's good.
Mm, it doesn't have pineapple, but it's pretty freaking good. What's funny is say it like the Hunt Expo that we go to here in Salt Lake, right? We have the company card. I can run to the vendors there and buy a burger or the little chicken strips. I honestly prefer to eat a curry there because it's like it's more food, it's more filling, and it tastes better than what's offered there with like the little food trucks that they have inside the Hunt Expo. And then we had a guy, we were at a show probably a month and a half ago. He walks up and he says, "Hey, I just want to let you know I was at my sister's wedding at a golf course. This was down in Arizona." And he said they catered chicken Alfredo at the dinner wedding, and there was no question your guys' chicken Alfredo was better than
It's
what
awesome.
we had to eat at the wedding dinner. Kind of made us chuckle.
It's awesome. Well, we're gonna end this thing with the hunting story, but first I got some ideas for my Tricer meals. Although you're already doing the birria, the birria tacos, some sort of tacos, fajita tacos with the tortillas. That's a good idea. Those aren't Tricer meals though. The ramen will be your like bestseller. Dude, the granola eaters are gonna eat that up, dude. They love ramen. I love ramen. If you had ramen, I'd be buying the snot out of it, dude. I want some sort of a breakfast with Tricer marshmallows, Dino Mellows in there. Like you don't
That'd
have
be pretty
anything,
sweet.
dude. Some sort of breakfast, like I don't know, like almost like maybe a little chocolate, some graham cracker type stuff, and then like the Dino Mellows in there, almost like what's the cereal? Lucky Charms, like those kind of those shaped like a dinosaur, dude.
Right.
Like something like that, a little sweeter. Like you can make it healthy. So I don't know, put some almonds there, make it healthy. So everyone thinks it's healthy, but like some dark chocolate and some marshmallows in there, little dinosaur shaped. Dude, everyone like you have these killers like Mendez and Ranella. Like I'm not a killer like those guys, so I can't really do like buffalo or anything. But like I definitely have a sweet tooth. So dude, like with the little marshmallows in there for breakfast. Dude, I was gonna come over there and hang out with you guys for it's like a week and it's like design meals. I'd have so much fun with that.
Oh yeah, it's one of the funnest things that we get to do is I mean it'll take anywhere from 6 to 10 months from the time that we have the idea of a new meal until it's ready to sell. Just because some things freeze dry really well, some things don't. Some things you think will taste really good as a reconstituted meal, others not so much, and they're it's quite the cool process from A to Z, seeing how something's developed. Because I mean, because we do that all here, we don't outsource it to anybody. We get to be hands on the entire process, so it's pretty fun. We're taste testing stuff that we'll be launching in like January and or through 2025. We're doing the beginning phases of that stuff right now, um, to give us plenty of runway, plenty of lead time to make sure that it tastes good, it rehydrates well, and it's ready to go for next year.
Dude, yeah, well, you
But
gotta
yeah,
do ramen. You
I
already
like
know
where
ramen drives well.
I like where you're headed with the Dino
Marshmallows,
marshmallows.
the Dino marshmallows. Oh, dude, that just sounds great in the morning right there. Little
Oh yeah,
chocolate. I don't know any of the backpack meals. I do a lot of the granola stuff. I don't know any of them that have marshmallows in there. There's some with chocolate and stuff, but dude, a couple of those little marshmallows in there. Oh, that sounds phenomenal. When you just want that sugar, it's good. Not all of us are like getting an elk shape over here. You know what I mean? Like I work out. I want some sweets in them up there. We,
glad I'm not the only one.
we can't all be Cameron Haynes. Some of us got to have some sweets on the mountain, and that would be to not a dessert, a breakfast with
A
marshmallows in it.
breakfast. Okay, I'll call up Andrew. Say, hey, Andrew in food science, time to put our head to the drawing board, man.
Uh,
Let's see what we can do.
in some sort of a taco, and then you have to do ramen. Like ramen, everyone knows that rehydrates well because it's the freaking best rehydrated meal ever made, dude. It's like
Oh
some
yeah,
some ramen
takes
would
2 minutes, ready to rock and roll.
dude, some ramen with like some chicken in there, maybe some eggs, like the hard boiled eggs cut up, put those in there, some
Yeah,
onions. Dude, Dude, I would crush it. I'm getting excited. All right, dude. We end this thing with a hunting story every time. It doesn't need to be like your biggest animal. You don't got to be Ranella. It could be your favorite story. It could be your first animal. Whatever it is, just hit us with a campfire hunting story, dude. Give it to us.
Oh man, it seems like every year there's always one that stands out, and then you feel like you top it the next year.
Hmm.
Um, but one of my most memorable by far was so I worked at an archery shop before I worked at King's Camo, and because I worked there, I shot a ton of different bows, tuned a bunch of different bows, and knew so I'm a 32-inch draw length. If I'm shooting someone's bow that's a 28-inch draw length, there is so much that can go wrong, or not necessarily go wrong, but we're going to have a different anchor point, looking through the peep different. We're going to hit in. If I were to grab my buddy's bow that's a 28-inch draw length to shoot at 40 yards, there's a good chance I miss the target because our grips are different, our releases are
Hmm.
different, all that jazz. Anyway, long story short, I was elk hunting with one of my best friends. We had gone in, and he hit a bull in no man's land the second to last night of the hunt. The season closes September 30th. He hits this bull pretty dang high on the night of September 29th. And so we said, hey, we know where the arrow hit. We found it pop out with only a couple inches of penetration, but we're just going to go in there and do our due diligence, make sure that there's not a blood trail further down the canyon or whatnot. And so we hike in there, and we scoured the area for 4 or 5 hours. Ended up seeing the bull, and he was rutting cows as hard as could be. He was just fine. And so as we were hiking out, my buddy just felt super bad about hitting the bull, didn't really want to hunt anymore. But as we're hiking back to the truck, there's all these elk filing over the saddle like a quarter mile in front of us, half mile in front of us. And I'd left my bow in the truck because we were so far from the truck, and we were so far from truck to our home. Both of us had to be to work on Monday. The season closed on Sunday the 30th. So I said, hey, it would be a very bad deal if we shot an elk Sunday night. And so I'm just gonna leave my bow in the truck. If you want to keep hunting, great. We'll try to go in there, find your bull, get it killed, and pack your bull out. So we're hiking back. It's probably 2 hours before it gets dark. And my buddy's like, dude, there's elk screaming their heads off. Like, take my bow and go try to shoot one of these things. And with my knowledge of working in the archery shop, I was like, dude, we'd have to seriously get within 10 yards for this to even have a chance, for the arrow to even have a chance of hitting this bull and making an ethical fatal shot. Um, Kind of cut through the little details. We find this bull bedded, um, and he had 3 cows. The bull falls asleep. The cows walk off, and it's like, dude, the stars are aligning. This is meant to be. And so yeah, he gave me his bow and said, you said you had to get to 10 yards to see what you could do. And so I snuck down, and the area we hunt is pretty desert sagebrush with some patches of pines in between. So I mean, I'm walking through knee high sagebrush the entire time I'm going down the hill, saying this isn't going to work. The bull's going to stand up at like 60 yards and probably feed off. I snuck to 50. My buddy cow called twice. Once the bull woke up, the bull stands up, walks past me at like, I think it was 7, 8 yards. And I just drew back. My arm was bent probably like this because he's a 28-inch draw length. I'm a 32-inch draw length. I just put the entire housing on the vitals, touched it off, center punched the bull. It ran over 50 yards, tipped over, and we both stood up and were like, dude, what just happened? Like, are you kidding me? That shouldn't have happened. And then we were scrambling because we were out of phone service. Probably had about a 3 mile hike back to the four wheeler, a solid hour ride back to the truck, and then yes, a 6 hour drive home. And so we cut the bull up as fast as we could and rolled into work Monday morning at about 9:30 with zero sleep, but one heck of a story to tell everybody. So
That's rad, dude. That's why I like Peak Refuel. You guys are killers, and I want to
right
support.
place, right time.
I want to support. I want to support companies that support hunting. So, yeah, if you guys are listening to this and you've never had Peak Refuel, stop going to Walmart. Start buying Peak Refuel. It is well worth it. It is literally twice the meal of whatever you're eating right now in one bag, and it tastes delicious. Alex, let's do it again, dude. I'm sure I'm going to see you a bunch at all these shows coming up. We can hang out, and I'm excited for the Tricer marshmallow meal to come out here.
Absolutely, can't wait to hear how your hunts go. Can't wait to put our tricers to good use this fall and see what we can turn up. And yeah, touch base a little later. And as always, send us your pictures, send us your how the hunts go, and we'll do the same.
Rad, dude.